be going through the assembly process for getting this thing up and running on your DJI Phantom. All right, first I'm going to get the PMU. What we're going to do here is we're going to connect the positive to the positive lead, the ground to the ground lead right over here. This will be the one that's not connected to any of the propellers themselves. What I like to do before soldering is I just like to paint the leads a little bit. So it'll be nice and easy to actually solder into place. Now with soldering, if you don't have any experience, it really doesn't take much. Less is more in this case. You can get a soldering iron at Radio Shack for about $7, way cheaper than having DJI actually install it for you. You're going to want to do on sort of an angle. Just kind of touch it, let it heat itself up, melt in there. You're going to keep really still when you're doing this. You don't want this thing to move around a lot when it's going through the heating process. Cut here. This old solder in here is tough. Alright, now we got the positive lead all done. Time for the ground. Alright, now they're in there nice and snug. Next up is the GCU. We're going to solder this into a point where you probably wouldn't expect you'd have to do something like this. We're going to do it to what shows in the official video as the front left propeller in relation to the direction of flight for the Phantom. If you actually look on the board, you'll see something that says VCC and GND. The VCC is where we are going to want to put our positive lead. Yet again, I'm just going to paint these wires a little bit so they go on nice and easily. A little extra just in case. Watch out for these wires right here. The sheaths are not very sturdy on them. They'll burn right through if you touch them with an iron. Alright. And it's always important to make sure that you don't wiggle these things around whenever they're going into place. Alright, now both the PMU and the GCU are both in place. Alright, now that we got everything soldered in place, time to tape it up. This is the easy part right here. The goal here isn't primarily to make it secure. While that is a goal, it's also to make sure that these leads will always stay in place. The less wiggle that you have with these, the less likely it will be that they will come out and cause a short somewhere on your board, which will most probably brick your Phantom. First thing you want to tape down are those leads themselves. Just get a good layer over where you just put the fresh solder. All right, now we're going to unplug one of these rubber stops in here. I'm just gonna go ahead and just pick one that doesn't have anything going through it. Right here. And I'm gonna curl this cable up right here, so it's gonna be able to easily go down vertically through this hole that I just created. All right, now that we got the cable through, we're gonna go ahead and unplug this pin right here from the X3 port in the NASA. All right, and we are gonna take the cable that comes with the PMU right here, and we're just gonna replace it right back in there, into that X3 port. All right, now after that, we're gonna take this cable right here that's on the PMU. Just gonna plug it in those 4 empty slots that are on the top of your NASA controller. Now we're going to plug in this 8-pin cable right here into the GCU. All right, next we're going to connect the PMU with the GCU with the provided cable. And lastly, we are going to take this 4-pin connector right here, and we're going to plug it into the GPS port in the PMU. All right, hardest part's over. Now all we got to do is make it fit in here. Now's the time when we want to make it nice and snug. Make sure you use electrical tape. Not all tape is insulating, and some are actually prone to heat issues and can melt, which could cause more electrical problems with inside of your Phantom unit. I also recommend that you wrap some of your cables up. That'll provide better airflow inside of the unit. All right, we finally got it put back together. That means it's time to do the rest, the easy part. Mounting the damper on, and then finally the gimbal itself. All right, when we install the damper, we're going to use a couple washers. Now, the easiest way to screw in this one right here in the middle is by just moving the damper over a little bit so you can get good placement with your screwdriver. Now, before we actually install it, we're going to plug in this 8-pin connector here straight into the gimbal itself. Now finally we're going to use these last 2 Allen heads to attach the gimbal to the damper system. Alright, finally got these last screws in. They were not easy to get in. And put these props on, we're going to be ready to fly.